Today we're going to be going over chapter 1 of the contractor manual. I'm going to show you everything that I highlighted. I'll let you know if I saw something that was on my test so you guys can underline it and highlight it as well. Before we start, I do recommend buying these gel highlighters from Amazon. They're only about $4. These are the ones that I use in this book. You'll see that in this book, some of the highlights that I did were with the regular highlighter and they just bleed through the pages. Another thing that I did with my book is I put tabs at the bottom. Don't recommend doing that because it's so hard to store now. I can't store it like this anymore because then it will just get it slammed, so I have to store it like that. It's annoying. One thing I also do is I highlight all of my chapters so you can see here. So chapter 1 is highlighted, chapter 2 is highlighted, and I put this little tab as well so I know they're chapters. So this is a chapter, this is a chapter, this is a chapter, this is a chapter. So I do that as well so it's easier for me to scroll through it. So let's get right into chapter 1. Here's chapter 1. In this table of contents, I didn't highlight anything. This one I just kept clean. Some of the other chapters, I do highlight a few things. On page 1.5, we're starting. This is the first highlight I have. Construction is similar to other businesses as it relates to planning, organization, management, and structure. Business plan. Some general guidelines that you can follow when working on your business plans are executive summary, description, research your market, funding, projections. On projections, I have charts and graphs are also good to use in this section. Some questions to consider in this section are, and there's the questions on 1.7, RFPs highlighted first. So if they ask you, what is an RFP? It is request for proposals, business organization. The details of organizing your construction business entails, but is not limited to name, location, structure, workforce, registration, licenses, regulation, tax, finance, leasing, insurance, record keeping, and advertising and marketing. Page 1.8. The SBA notes that business location has an effect on cost regarding items such as salaries, property values, rental rates, business insurance rates, utilities, and government license and fees. Some locations have incentives such as HUB zones and tax credit for small businesses. The type of business organizations that you select depends partly upon, and then we have these, and then sole proprietorship. So here's an example. They might ask you, what is the simplest form of business organization? And it's right here. A sole proprietorship is the simplest form of business organization. Make sure to highlight that. And who is responsible for decisions in a sole proprietorship? The owner manages the business and is responsible for all decisions. Right here, control of the business as well, it says. Sole proprietorship, you have absolute authority over all business decisions. And it has the advantages and then disadvantages here. One thing they might do is they might ask you, what is an advantage of a sole proprietorship? They will have 4 answers. Sometimes it's 3 of these and all of the above. So just choose all above. Or it will be 3 random ones and then just 1 from the list. So you just got to take a look at this list and see which one is on there or which one is not on there. There's the disadvantages as well. We're on page 1.9. Partnership. The Florida Uniform Partnership Act defines as a partnership as 2 or more persons associating themselves as co-owners for the purpose of carrying on a business for profit. A partnership agreement should include, these are all the things that it should include in the contract. There are 2 types of partnership recognized in Florida. This is important right here. A general partnership and a limited partnership. General partnership. Each of the partners are fully and personally liable as co-owners of the business. Limited partnership. A limited partnership is kind of like stocks, multiple ownerships. Has 1 or more limited partners. Is immune from liability for partnership debts beyond the amount of his investment. A limited partner cannot be involved in the management or day-to-day operations of the business. The qualifying business cannot be a limited partner. More passive investors always have at least 1 general partner. So a limited partnership always has 1 general partner. Also, if I don't have something highlighted, that doesn't mean it's not important. Sometimes you will have answers to questions that are not highlighted. We're on page 111. This is joint ventures right here. So joint ventures are by the same rules that govern partnerships. Joint venture is usually limited to a single transaction, and control of the business for the joint venture is the same as a partnership. Corporation. The corporate form of business is usually the costliest to organize. So they might ask, what is the costliest to organize for a business? And it's the corporate form. And these are the advantages of corporation right there, and these are the disadvantages. And then an S corporation. Provisions allow shareholders to absorb all corporate income or losses as partners and report it as individual taxpayers. In essence, the S corporation is not affected by corporation income tax, thereby eliminating the double taxation feature of standard corporations, the election of S corporation. A corporation must meet certain requirements, and I have this requirement highlighted. 20% or more of its revenue must be domestically generated. Control of the business, you have to have 51% to have control of the business. So the following below are points to consider and think about regarding your workforce. There it goes up here too. And then registration. So this is each county requirements to register a business may vary. An occupational license. This is issued by counties and cities. Certificate of occupancy, zoning permits. These are all distributed by your county. This is distributed by the state, Florida General Corporation Act. Fictitious name registration. This is one that they might ask you for. The one that I had in my test was right here. The fictitious name must be advertised, and it will say how many times in a newspaper, and it's one time in a newspaper. And then this is the if change of ownership. Make sure to highlight these ones that I have too. All right, we're going to, this is page 115. DR1 application for certificate of registration, sales tax. You know this probably already, 6% retail sales tax, Department of Revenue. All businesses which collect the sales tax must secure a certificate of registration, sales tax number, from the Department of Revenue. A registration fee is required for Florida business. They might ask you, where do you get a sales tax number from? You get it from the Department of Revenue. Federal tax ID, SS4, EIN number. The form must be filled on or before the 7th day after the date which the business begins. Okay, page 116. I just have this. Qualifying agents. Make sure you learn what a qualifying agent is. They will ask that on the test most likely, and you should know what it is already. However, if a partnership, joint venture, corporation, or any other form of business entity proposes to engage in contracting, it must apply to the Federal Department of Professional Regulations through a qualifying agent. I don't have anything highlighted here. And 120. So some principles, duties of an effective and responsible manager include, but are not limited to, planning, organizing, directing, controlling, standardizing, assigning, and communicating effectively. So they might ask you, what are duties of an effective and responsible manager? And you have here, planning, organizing, directing, controlling, standardizing, assigning, and communicating. So right here is dissolution or termination of business organizations. So when a partnership comes to an end, there are basically 3 steps which it goes through. Dissolution, wind up, and termination. Dissolution, wind up, termination. A partnership is also dissolved by any event that makes it unlawful, the death of any partner, bankruptcy of any partner, a court decree under the Partnership Act. Corporate dissolution and liquidation. 2 types of dissolution should be distinguished: voluntary and involuntary. 3 procedures of the voluntary dissolution of a corporation, and then these 3. And then the most important exceptions are right here, 1 and 2. So this one I have underlined in permit of construction. Construction of any structure in or across any navigable waters of the U.S. is responsible of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. or the Florida Department of Environmental Regulations. And then right here, state licensing agency. So who distributes the licensing for the construction? It's the Construction Industry License Board. Forms. So I have forms here. So these are all of the pretty much tax forms here. And then workers' compensation as well. And right here I have that highlighted. These. So I just want to show you an example. If you get a question, what is a Form 940? It's an employer's annual unemployment tax return. But if you get a form question, you want to go to your index. Every time I had a form question, I would do this. Go to your index, go to forms, and you have all your forms right here. It even goes on to the next page. So if I want to know what a 940 is, it takes me to 2 pages, 126 and 3181. So I'll go check 126 first, flip through the book, and I'm going to 126. And right there it tells me what a Form 940 is. Here, I don't have anything highlighted. Don't have anything highlighted here. And now we get into chapter 2. So make sure you guys watch the next video for chapter 2. If you have any questions, let me know in the comment down below. And I have a WhatsApp group chat. I have my phone number down below. If you text me on WhatsApp, I'll add you to the group. It's a bunch of people that are taking their contractor's test now. It could be a roofer, contractor, anything that are studying for the test. So it would be good to talk to people that are also taking the test. You guys made it to chapter 2. Keep going. You guys can do this. I believe in you guys. Once again, if you guys study, put the time in, you will pass this exam. This chapter is very important. It's a long chapter. The most important thing about this chapter is the statutes is in this chapter. Another thing that's in this chapter is the violations and citation amounts. Those are very important, and I got multiple questions from there. So let's get right into it and look at all the highlighting that I have. So for the table of contents, I just have public liability insurance highlighted and licensing exemptions and construction contracting. I also have qualifying agents. This is something we talked about in chapter 1. We're going to get more into in chapter 2 here. The second is changes in licensing information. And here are all the statutes. This is very important. So what this book does is in chapter 2, it will go over the main topics of the statutes and kind of simplify it. So this will have all the statutes in the back, the whole entire thing, not just summarized. We're starting at page 2.5. The regulation of profession, in turn, is generally accomplished by licensing. In Florida, most non-medical profession and occupational licensing boards are located within one state agency, the Department of Business and Professional Regulations, known as DPPR. DBPR is very important. You're going to hear a lot about this, so make sure you learn what it is and what they do. The professional boards are made up of primarily of members of the regulated profession, appointed by the governor. The professional boards and not the DPPR make final decisions. So professional boards, not the DPPR, make the final decisions. Investigating complaints, take appropriate disciplinary actions. And then here are the 1 and the 2. So here we go, chapter 489. Chapter 489 Florida statutes provides for the licensure and regulation of all types of contracts in Florida and is divided into 3 parts: construction contracting, electrical and alarm system contracting, and septic tank contracting. Part 1 of Chapter 489 provides for an 18 members of Construction Industry License Board, CILB. This 18 members, make sure to have that in there. The CILB is divided into 2 divisions, Division 1 and Division 2. Part 2 of Chapter 49 provides for an 11 member, and then Chapter 3, Department of Health and Rehabilitative Services. Construction contracting. Generally, any person who for compensation undertake to submit a bid or does himself or by others, construction, repair, alter, remodel, add to, demolish, subtract from, or improve any building or structure, including related improvements to real estate for others or for resale to others, must be licensed. The term demolish applies only to demolition of steel tanks, towers, and other structures, not buildings or residencies over 50 feet in height, and all buildings or residencies. Any person who wants to engage in contracting statewide must establish competency and qualifications to be certified by passing the appropriate examinations. A subcontractor, however, who is not certified or registered may perform construction work under the supervision of a person who is certified or registered as long as, right here, licensing requirements. So there's two types of licensings. There's a certified contractor and a registered contractor. A certified contractor can work anywhere in the state of Florida. If you live in Miami, you can even do work in Orlando, in Orange County. And a registered contractor can only work in a specific county. You can be registered only in Dade County and can only work in Dade County. Everyone should become a certified contractor so you can work the whole state of Florida. I don't know who would do a registered contractor to be only work in one county. Certified construction contractors. To be able to take an examination for certification, an applicant must, and this has everything that they need right here. You should already know all of this. I already knew all of this even before I even started studying for this test. Make sure you know all of this as well, because you need to know all of this when you're applying to get your license. If you don't meet these qualifications, you're wasting your time taking these tests. Another thing is, if you don't have the experience now, you can take the test and get the experience after you pass the test. Experience and education. The CILB will accept lawful acquired experience gained under the supervision of a contractor who at the time was properly licensed in the category which encompasses the scope of practice in which the application is seeking licensure. Another thing that I hear all the time from people is, oh, you have to get a GC to sign off on you, or you have to get a contractor to sign off on you when you're applying. No one has to sign off for you to get your license. You can apply and you don't even have to tell the people that you're applying for the license. Commercial experience must be in 4 or more of the following areas. Right here, this is for a general contractor. If you're applying to be a general contractor, this is all the qualifications you have to meet and the experience you have to have. And this is a residential contractor. You have to have all of this experience as well. I don't know why they don't have a building contractor in here. Just weird. So a swimming pool contractor, a minimum of 2,000 person hours is used for purpose of determining full-time equivalency. Certified electric alarm system contractor, have within the 12 years prior to filing the application at least 6 years of comprehensive specialized training, education, or supervisor experience in the alarm system contracting business, or at least 6 years of technical experience in electrical or alarm system work with the armed forces or governmental entity. 212, licensure of members of the armed forces and their spouses. Fees. This is going to be on your test for sure, so make sure you pay attention to this. Medical gas certification, and make sure to read the question twice. Look over the question and understand the question, because they will try to trick you. A plumbing contractor who wishes to engage, read all of this. The contractor has to take 6 hours of continued education. A person who is employed must take an 8 hours course. So they might ask you, an employee that works for a plumbing contractor for medical gas certification, and you just go here and you're like, oh, it's 6 hours right here. But that 6 hours is for the contractor, and it's actually 8 hours for the employee. So make sure to have this. Application moral character, criminal history, crime more than 5 years, may not be grounds for denial. do not relate to the practice of contracting or the ability to practice contracting include, right here, other licensing requirements, financial responsibility requirements, net worth reporting, evidence of financial responsibility, credit, and business reputation, the financial stability ground, FICO derived of 660 or higher and must be payable in the amount of 50% of the financial stability bond or letter of credit requirements may be met by completion of a 14-hour financial responsibility course approved by the board. $10,000 for an unlimited electrical and alarm contractor and $5,000 for a specific contractor. This is important right here. Make sure you have this highlighted. You might even want to put a tab on it. They're for sure going to ask a question about this. Public liability insurance. Public liability and property damages insurance in the following minimum amounts. So they might ask you, what is the minimum liability insurance a general contractor must have? It's $300,000. Or they might ask, what is the minimum property damage insurance a general contractor must have? $50,000. So you must have this highlighted or tabbed. They will 100% ask a question on the test about this. Evidence of workers' compensation coverage. Notice of election to be exempt with the Division of Workers' Compensation of the Department of Labor and Employment Security. If approved, the exemption takes effect 31 days after filing and remains in effect until revoked and for a period of 2 years, whichever occurs sooner. Terms of license. Licensure as a certified or registered contract must be renewed every 2 years. Continuing education. They might ask a question about this as well. Each certified or registered contractor must complete at least 14 classroom or interactive distance learning hours of continuing education every 2 years. One thing that you must note that is in the statutes, that they defined an hour as 50 minutes. Once again, they defined an hour as 50 minutes. Then 12 months prior to the end of a biennial period is required to complete 7 hours of approved continuing education as a condition of the first renewal of the certificate or registration. Business records. They will ask this question as well. Contractor's license pursuant to Chapter 489. Florida statutes must maintain complete financial and business records kept in the regular course of business for the immediate preceding 3 years. You have to keep business records for 3 years. 218. This is important. Make sure you read through all of this and you understand all the items that are a license exemption from construction contracting. Read through all of this and understand all of this. They will 100% ask a question about this. They might ask you, do you need to have a license to install heating or air conditioning units that have a capacity no greater than, they might put 4 tons or 38,000 BTU. They might ask something like that. So you have to know all of this. So when you get a question about license exemption, you go right here to page 218 and 219, and you have the answers here. Subcontracting requirements. General contractors and certified underground and utility and excavation contractors may perform clearing and grubbing, grading, excavation, and other site work for a construction project. And it keeps going on here. That's the only one but I had this all highlighted, so these are all important as well. Electrical and alarm system contracting exemptions here too. Qualifying agents. So this is what I was talking about earlier. This is something you want to read through all of this. I'm not going to go through all of this. Pause the video to highlight all of this. This is very important to understand what a qualifying agent is. So right here, pause the video now so you can take these highlights. Here's another one. Independent contractor has the right to control or direct only the result of the work and not the means and methods of accomplishing the result. independent contractor, or employees the right to control or direct only the result of work and not the means and methods of accomplishing the results. IRS common law test, behavioral, financial type of relationship, behavioral control, and employee. All the following are examples of types of instructions about how to do work. Ways to avoid having independent contractor treated as employees, being treated as an independent contractor, 1099 reflecting amounts earned if 600 or more. Don't ever pay bonuses to a person you treat as an independent contractor. Very important. Penalties for unlicensed activity. You will get questions about this. Any person who falsely holds himself or herself out to be a licensed contractor or who engages in contracting without first obtaining a license is guilty of a first-degree misdemeanor, and a second offense is a third-degree felony. Make sure to have this highlighted. Any contract entered into by a contractor not licensed pursuant to Part 1 or Part 2 of Chapter 489 Florida statutes is legally unenforceable. If you ever have flipped a house or done work on a house or anything and you entered into a contract with someone, a handyman or any person, and they do not have a license, that contract you have with them will not hold up in court. That's what they're saying right here. So right here it's saying that if you get hurt on a job, you're entitled to 3 times the actual damages sustained in costs and attorney fees if the contractor is neither certified by the state nor licensed to the laws of the city or county in which he or she does business. Change in licensing information. A business organization must inform the DPPR by mail of any changes in the information required to be submitted on the application for qualification of a business organization within 45 days following the change. This might be a question here. This was in Chapter 1, if you remember. License number must appear on building permits and advertisements. Registration or certification number on each building permit issued to him. In addition, a contractor's license number must appear in any advertisement concerning the contractor, including text or artwork on the contractor's vehicle. Grounds for disciplinary action against contractors. The licensing board may revoke, suspend, or deny the insurance or renew of a license to a contractor. And then it says right here the following acts. If you want to highlight that, I have that one and I have this one as well. Right here too. And then it's this as well. So make sure to pause the video, highlight those. So now we're getting into the statutes. I am not going to read all of these. It's a lot. So make sure if you want this to pause the video to get exactly this. I'm going to go over the ones that I saw on my test really quickly. But this is something very important. Make sure you understand and learn these statutes because they are going to ask questions from these statutes. So once again, make sure to pause the video and highlight what I do have highlighted. So right here is a penalty for theft of reproduction of any examination. Right here, a felony of the 3rd degree. And then right here it says continue education providers. Each continue education provider shall retain all records relating to a licensee's completion of continue education course for at least 4 years after completion of the course. right here, authority to issue citation. However, if the subject does not dispute the matter in the citation with the department within 30 days after the citation is served, the citation becomes a final order and constitutes discipline. Right here, unlicensed activities, fees, dispositions. Therefore, the department shall impose upon initial licensure and each subsequent renewal a special fee for $5 per license to fund efforts to combat unlicensed activity. Right here, renewal and cancellation notices. At least 90 days before the end of a licensure cycle, the department shall forward a notice. And right here, failure of a license to renew before the license expires shall cause the license to become delinquent and the license cycle following expiration. So I had this question on my test. They left out delinquent and had 4 options, and delinquent was the answer. Now we're in chapter 489. Right here, it's stating that any work under $2,500, you do not need a license. And it's pretty much saying if you just do multiple different contracts under $2,500 should do this, it's still against the law. Definitions, here's the definitions of what a board is: a department, a contractor, a general contractor, a building contractor, and a residential contractor. Right here, we already highlighted this. The board shall consist of 18 members. Fees, here's the fees for applying for a license, for the contractor's license. And this is kind of going over what we saw in the beginning of the chapter. Right there, that's what we saw, the medical gas certificate in a course of at least 6 hours. And then here it says 8 hours for the employee. And here's what I was talking about earlier, about the 14 classroom hours of at least 50 minutes of each continuing education course. That's what I was talking about earlier. Oops, sorry. Here's important. This is going over the advertisements of where you need to place your license number. For the purpose of this part, the term advertisement does not include business stationery or any promotional novelties such as balloons, pencils, trinkets, or articles of clothing. So you don't have to put your license on any of these items. So this is very important to have highlighted and underlined because they are for sure going to ask this on the test. This right here as well, emergency registration upon death of a contractor. Within 30 days after the death of the contractor, of his or her name and address, knowledge of the contract, and ability to complete it. Make sure to read this and understand this. And right here, responsibilities. The statutes of the quality qualifying agent shall cease upon the designation of the new primary qualified agents or 60 days after the satisfactory notice of termination. Within 60 days, all secondary qualifying agents for the business organization shall become primary qualifying. And right here, as soon as you receive money, applying for permits necessary to do work within 30 days and start the work within 90 days. This is penalties. Make sure you look at this as well. Make sure you guys like and subscribe down below. These videos take up a lot of time for me to edit, and I do this to make sure you guys pass this exam. And I have a WhatsApp group down below. Make sure to text the number in the description down below and I'll add you to the WhatsApp group. It's going to be other people that are in the process of taking the test, so they should be some help. This they're going to ask. This is the Florida Homeowners Construction Recovery Fund. Make sure to read all of this here. They are going to ask a question about that as well. I don't have anything highlighted here. Okay, this is chapter 61G 412. Civil penalty for violation of chapter 455. The penalty should be paid within 30 days of its imposition by order of the board. Failure to pay a fine, an annual percentage rate of 18%. The application and exemption fee right here. These are the fees you actually already paid to take the test. They should not, right here they say it again, they should not apply to balloons, pencil, pens, hat, articles of clothing, shirts, or other promotional novelty. This is when they're talking about your license number. This is qualifying another organization. The applicant seeking to qualify an additional business and organization must appear before the board unless the applicant otherwise qualifies for approval, and qualifying 3 more business organizations must appear before the board. Notification of changes. A certificate holder or a registrant shall notify the board office within 30 days of a change in name, style, or address from that which appears on the current certificate of registration, and shall notify the board office within 30 days after the qualifying person has ceased to be affiliated with the qualified business organization. And also here it states the public liability insurance again. So if you want to highlight that, you have 2 options to find it right here, and it keeps going there. Nothing. We're almost finished, guys. Penalties. This have tabbed. Make a little tab for this. They are for sure going to ask questions about this. Make sure to read over it, learn about it as well. and they have right here, it will say first offense or repeat offense. So understand that the first offense is here and the repeat offense is here, and this is the minimum and maximum of each. I had this on my test from there, a question from there. Citation authority, have this tabbed as well. They might ask you a question here. It's just page 217 to 2172. Let me see if I have anything else. Might not have anything else, but I'm still gonna go through it just in case if I do have something that you guys can get it. This book is so big and it really hurts your fingers when you're flipping through it because the pages are so thin. It's very cheap paper. Yeah, it looks like I don't have anything else in here. Looks like we're going straight into chapter 3. Okay guys, now we're in chapter 3, financial management. Whenever you get an accounting question on the test, I personally would go to chapter 3 if I didn't know if it was already in the accounting book. And when you study the accounting book good, you will know which questions will be in the accounting book and which ones will be in the contractor's manual. I would check both of them sometimes, or I just found it in the accounting book and I just move forward to another question. One thing I do like about this chapter 3 is page 105, and that is the glossary. So if I had any definition that was in the accounting and I didn't know what it was, I would come here to check what the definition meant. I have like fiscal year highlighted. So this is a very good thing to have tabbed so you can come here if you don't understand something. I don't have anything highlighted here or here as well or here. And this is a long chapter, so I don't have anything highlighted on page 39. So I have here bookkeeping, the difference between bookkeeping and accounting. In this chapter, I'm not going to read over at everything. I'm kind of already losing my voice from doing chapter 1 and chapter 2. So I'm just going to point out things that are important. 30 days to pay. Accounts owed to a supplier who has given you credit are called accounts payable. Very important to know what accounts payable is. And that's something, once again, if I was like, man, what does that mean? I would go here to the glossary and it's like, okay, accounts payable, money owed by the company for goods and services provided by its supplier. Easy. Balance sheet right here. Things owed are listed on the left and claims against things owned are listed on the right. Very important. So pretty much what they're doing is they're going over pretty much everything right here with these little examples. It's very important. I actually learned all of these and studied them as well. Things owned by the company are called assets. Claims by others are called liabilities. You probably already know that. And here's the equation. Assets equals liability plus equity. You got to know this. And you can just go page here, page 312, if you get a question about that. Changes in equity. They are investments or withdrawals by the owner, earnings or losses by the company. Changes caused by withdrawals. right here. Revenues and then expenses, they're defined here. And once again, let's go to the glossary and see if we can find revenues. Expenses, here's expenses here. So if you need to figure out what expenses means or what revenue means, right here, revenues. Little cheat sheet right there for the glossary. Keep going. Right here, stuff to highlight. Once again, I'm not going to read everything. I'm just going to read what's important. Here they define what an accrual method is. The categories under assets, liabilities, equity, revenues, and expenses are called accounts. Debits refer to the left side of an account and credit refers to the right side of account. Very important to know this. The act of increasing the account balance of the account that has a debit balance is called debiting, and this is crediting right here. And then it shows a summary of debt and credit theory. So it shows the example here of what you're doing. Right here. The reason for having a separate income statement is that it provides information on how the earning on the balance sheet were arrived at and over what period of time. The journal. Make sure to learn what the journal is. Let's see if it has journal here in the glossary if you get a question like that. Right here, journal. So if you don't know what a journal is, go to the glossary. They don't have a glossary or like a definition section in the accounting book, so that's why I like this so much. A chart of accounts. The balance sheet, current and fixed assets, current and long-term liabilities, and equity. So make sure to pause the video, get all of these highlights that I have. And all of these are in the glossary as well. So balance sheet, let's find balance sheet. Balance sheet right there. So it would be very smart to go through this glossary and read it a few times to understand what each word means. Income statement includes revenue, expenses, and income. Prepaid expenses are assets that have been paid for but which will become expenses over time. And here it shows an example of this. Prepaid insurance. These are all examples of each journal entry pretty much. This is important, the Mac, whatever you want to call it. And they will for sure ask you a question about this, but they have this in the accounting book and it's more simple. So when I do the accounting book, I will show it, but in the accounting book, it has a better definition for it. But you can also come here as well. Real estate may now only be depreciated on a straight line basis. Here we go, more. Amortization. That's an important one. Here's right here, tab, for example, of a balance sheet. That's funny. I actually had this inside my testing room, and I guess they didn't notice it when they were going through the books. After I took my test, I haven't touched this book. During my test, I actually had a tab in my book, and I had to call her over to get it out because she told me, she's like, if there's more tabs in here, just call me over and I will take it out when you're in the test. But not all proctors will be that nice, I guess. So make sure that you look through your book before you go. Opening the books. So once again, if you go to glossary, it will probably have here opening the books. Let's see. Right here, opening the books. So that glossary, once again, is a cheat sheet. Preferred stock, common stock, why and how. Accounts receivable. Important to learn what accounts receivable is. I had a question about open invoices on my test and I just came here. And the section describes a method of accounting known as the open invoice method. Open invoice accounting keeps track of each individual invoice together, which each partial payment made against it. Suppliers for early payment of their invoices. This is the discount right here. If they pay, that is in the accounting book, the discount amount. And they asked that on my test. And I think it's 2%. I don't remember, but I'm pretty sure it's 2% if they pay early. The preparation of your employees' payroll include the following. So right here is vacation pay, determine an employee's deduction, SIT income, the FIT. Learn all of this information here. FUTA. Once again, pause the video and highlight all of these items. Methods for maximizing your business cash flow. I have all of these highlighted, so take a look at them, read them. And here's part 2. Type of capital, startup, working, expansion, startup capital. So let's see if they have startup capital in here. So if you have that question, they do not have startup capital here. So that's something you got to know where to go. Types of capital. Startup capital is the amount of money needed to get the business underway and should be enough to cover expenses for 3 months to a year, depending on the type of contracting business. Expansion. To qualify for expansion financing, some programs and financial institutions require that you have been in the business for at least 2 years, while 5 years is preferred. Principal, term, rate. Right here, I have a few highlighted. The estimating process will vary from contractor to contractor, and the method used is not important as long as it produces a good estimate without taking excessive time. Treat each contract as if it's its own separate construction company. Types of contracts. They will ask you a question about this too. They'll ask you, which contract provides reimbursement of defined costs incurred plus a fee for the contractor service? Cost plus contractor. Right here, here's the percentage of completion. And then they might ask you right here, which one is basis of direct labor costs at a fixed hourly rate, time and material contract. The percentage of completion, this goes more in depth in the accounting book. Completed contract method. Much preferable method for accounting. Overhead costs, direct labor, material, and performance bond premiums. Retainages, 10%, 5%. Overhead expenses. So here's like a cheat sheet. If they ask what an overhead expense is, you can come here and see if it's on this list. Here's the type of financial ratios. I didn't really come to this book for ratios. I went to my accounting book for all of my ratios. I'd never really studied this part of the book, if I'm being honest. I did more of it for the accounting book. Employee information. The employee is required to maintain records that contain certain specific information about each employee, and this is the information they must keep. That's also in a different part of the book. This is the highest level of financial statement, and it is called an audit. They might ask you, what is a CPA? Right here, Certified Public Accountant. And here's that glossary we talked about again. And revenue recognition accounting method for taxes, cash method, accrual basis, percentage of completion, completed contract method. So 4 basic methods are available to contractors. So they might ask you, what are the 4 available methods for contractors for tax purposes? And this is the 4. Under the data taken, but I will have a few things highlighted. If you're the prime contractor, you'll be responsible for posting a copy of the wage decision. I don't think I have a lot of things highlighted here. I remember they only had like 1 or 2 questions from here. And I think it's in another part of the contractor's book as well. Here's a few. Can't really see those highlights. Circle E. So I'm pretty sure that they won't ask questions from the circular E. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure. You can check. I have a few things highlighted here. Keep all records, employment taxes for at least 4 years. We had that highlighted in the beginning of the chapter. File Form 941. If you timely deposit all taxes when due, you may file by May 10th, August 10th, November 10th, or February 10th, respectively. If you want the IRS to determine whether a worker is an employee, file Form SS8. You're required to get each employee's name and SSN and to enter them on Form W-2. You may make a payment with a timely filed Form 941 or Form 944 instead of depositing without incurring a penalty. Figuring FUTA tax. For 2021, the FUTA tax rate is 6%. The tax applies to the first $7,000 you pay to each employee as the wages during the year. The $7,000 is the federal wage base. Your state wage base may be different. And now we're going to get into chapter 4. So thank you guys so much for watching this video with me. And I will start doing chapter 4 now. Make sure to like and subscribe down below. Once again, I have a WhatsApp group chat. Make sure to text my number and I can add you to it. It's other people taking the test right now, so you could find a good study partner in there. Make sure to like and subscribe down below. Okay guys, let's get into chapter 5, labor and employment laws and regulations. Once again, if you guys want to be added to the WhatsApp group chat, the number is down below and in the pinned comments. Just message me and you'll be added to the group. Let's get into chapter 5. I'm pretty sure this is the longest chapter in the entire book. The questions that I did have were math questions. I'll get into it when we get to there. It was pretty simple. What I had on the test, I just went to this part of the book. You just follow the steps and I was able to get the answer. I have highlighted here Labor Management Relations Act, Fair Labor Standards Act, exemptions, overtime pay requirements, record keeping, child labor regulation number 3. Unemployment benefits, penalties, sanctions, special issues related to the construction industry. And this one, I had questions from here, so make sure to have this highlighted, starred, everything. Immigration Reform and Control Act of 1986. Record keeping, the Fair Labor Standard Act, Florida Child Labor Law, Florida Reemployment Assistance Program Law, Employer Guide to Reemployment Tax, Employer Guide to Reemployment Assistance Benefits. All right, so let's get right into it. These ones are the labor and employment laws and regulations. I just have these highlighted. Maybe just read through all of these and just highlight the name of each one. Here's another one. The age discrimination in employment, treating employees 40 years and older differently because of their age unless the employer can legally justify its actions. National Labor Relations Board, NLRB. So if they ask you what NLRB is, it's the National Labor Relations Board. Duty to bargain. Employers and unions have mutual obligations to bargain in good faith over wages, hours, and other terms and conditions of employment. Neither party is required to make particular proposals or concessions. The NLRB, acting through a member of regional offices, prosecutes unfair labor practices charges and conducts representation elections. If they ask you who is in the enforcement of unfair labor practice, it is the NLRB. Unfair labor practice charges and unfair labor practice charges ULP must be received by the regional office where the unfair labor practice is alleged to have occurred within 6 months of the alleged violation. Representation elections. In the construction industry, an employer can sign a bargaining agreement with the union without employees' majority support for the union. Coverage. Exception to coverage include employees who work in federal enclaves, such as military bases, and employees working for airline on railroads. Requirement prohibition. Florida is a right-to-work state. Specifically, the Florida Construction, in conjunction with the Florida statutes, prohibits collective bargaining agreements that require union membership as a condition of employment. Union shop agreements. An agreement whereby an employee is forced to join a union within 30 days of hire of the effective date of the agreement, whichever occurs last under penalty of discharge. Agency shop, maintenance of membership. So right here, the FLSA is federal statute which prescribes minimum wage of $7.25 per hour for non-overtime work. Overtime compensation at time and 1/2 the employee's regular rate. Test for exemption. Employees compensated on a salary of fee basis at a rate of not less than $15 per week. I don't have anything here. Nothing here. Okay, so this is important right here, this part right here. So let's go through this first. Each work week stands alone. Single work week as its standard and does not permit the averaging of hours over 2 or more weeks. Determining work week. Regular rate of pay. This is important right here. The regular rate of pay may be more than the federal statute minimum $7.25, but cannot be less. Right here, this footnote is important. Highlight it. Footnote 1. In Florida, as of January 1st, 2020, the rate is $8.65 per hour and will increase to $10 per hour on September 30th, 2027. The rate will increase every September 30th for the next 5 years until it reaches $15 per hour. Hourly rate employees. So right here, once again, this is important. You got to know how to do this math. So hourly rate employees, and then they're showing you how to get the overtime for it right here. So he makes $7.25. It's times 40 is $2.90. So his overtime rate is $10.88 times 6 hours, because he worked 6 hours of overtime, is $65.28. And then the $2.90, which is from here for his regular rate, plus the $65.28 for his 6 hours of overtime, he got $355.28 total. So when I had a question about overtime rate, I just went here and looked at their math and followed the same steps to get the same exact answer on the test. Another method that can be used, this is just another method that they're showing. Hourly rate and bonus. So here it's $7.25 per hour times $333.50. $333.50 calculated base plus $9.20 bonus is $342.70. So now you got how much it is with the bonus. So then you have to divide for the 46 hours he worked, which his base pay with the bonus is $7.45. So then you would do $7.45 times 46 hours is $342.70. And then you would do that. The overtime rate times 6 is 223.38 because he did overtime as well. So yeah, right here, where does it say he did overtime? Oh, it's coming from this question. So he did overtime, it's 22.38. So it's right here, 34.270 with the bonus, with the $22.38 for the overtime rate. So he got $365.08. So when you give someone a bonus, it's just not that the nine, like right here, it's just not a $9.20 bonus. It's actually going towards their hourly rate, and then it will be multiplied. These are important. Make sure you understand these two. Employees paid on salary. I didn't have any questions from this, but make sure to know it. I didn't have anything from here either. I didn't have anything from here. Bonuses. A bonus need not be included in the regular rate if the employer retains discretion. Both. 1, that a bonus will be paid, and 2, that the amount is not determined until the end or near the end of the bonus period. Gifts, Christmas, and special occasion bonus. It may be excluded from the regular rate. So these ones, this is different from the hourly rate and bonus. So make sure to understand that. Pay for foregoing holidays and vacations. On-call pay, I have highlighted. Daytime pay may not be waived. Overtime must be paid after 40 hours a week. May not be waived by agreement between the employer and employees. I had this on the test. Record keeping. Super, 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 super important. Employees are required by regulation to keep so-called hard records, such as payroll, employment contracts, or agreements, and sales and purchase record for 3 years. All other required records, so-called soft records, must be kept for 2 years. Among other records, these would include time cards or time sheets. The following information must be recorded for each covered employee. Here you go, all that. Construction industry, child labor restrictions, type of work. Children aged 15 and under may not be employed in a number of occupations, including construction. Child aged 16 and 17 may work in construction-related operations, but may not be involved in certain particular hazardous occupations at a construction site. So this is the occupations that they cannot do. Labor laws, number 3. No minor under 18 years of age is permitted to work in any of the following occupations. Hours. Under the FLSA, minors who are 14 and 15 may not work outside school hours in various non-manufacturing, non-mining, non-hazardous jobs under the following conditions. No more than 3 hours on a school day and 18 hours in a school week. I had a question like this. They were asking like how many hours can a 14 and 15-year-old work on a school day? And it was no more than 3 hours on a school day and 18 hours in a school week. No more than 8 hours on a non-school day and 40 hours in a non-school week. no earlier than 7 a.m. and no later than 7 p.m. except from June through Labor Day, when evening hours are extended to 9 p.m. Just read through all of these items. These are pretty important. I had a question on a test about this. Enforcement penalties. Here's all the penalties. Make sure to highlight those. The Davis-Bacon related acts. Employers with contracts valued in excess of $2,000. Just read through that. Penalties, sanctions, alleged underpayment of wages. Debarment from government contracts for up to 3 years may also be imposed. The Civil Rights Act of 1964. All right. Covers all employers that employ 15 or more employees in each of 20 or more calendar weeks in the current or preceding year. Labor unions and employment agencies. Enforcement must be filed within 300 days of an event triggering prohibited discrimination. Right here. This is once again what I was saying in other videos, is you're pretty much taking a law exam. You're not really taking an exam on construction. And they just want to make sure you know the law. So make sure to highlight these. The coverage, the FCRA, 15 or more employees for each workday in each of 20 or more calendar weeks in the current or preceding calendar year. Alcoholism is a protected handicap. All right. I didn't have anything from here, but just make sure to highlight and know where this stuff is. I'm just going to flip through these and you can pause and highlight what I have. Once again, if I don't have something highlighted, does not mean it's not important. Okay, so enforcement. So this is enforcement for Family and Medical Leave Act of 1993. So the Secretary of Labor may investigate compliance and bring suits, or an employee may bring suit in state or federal court. Suits may not be brought late than 2 years after the violation unless the violation was willful, in which case the period is extended to 3 years. Federal Rehabilitation Act of 1973. An aggrieved party must file a complaint of disability discrimination with the OFCCP within 300 days of an alleged discrimination act. Okay, American with Disability Act. This one highlight employers with 15 or more employees for each workday in each of 20 or more calendar weeks in the current or preceding calendar year. So this is saying that you have to get coverage if you have 15 or more employees. A physical or mental impairment the substantially limits one or more of the major life activities of such an individual. That's defining what a disability is. Reasonable accommodation. An employee is not required to offer all possible reasonable and accommodations or even the most reasonable accommodations. Pre-employment medical examinations are prohibited. Make sure to have that. An employer can require post-offer but be pre-starting work medical examinations and condition of the offer on the results of the examination in order to do so. During employment, employee medical examinations are generally prohibited. Current users of illegal drugs are excluded from the protection of the ADA. AIDS, right here. You can just highlight these that I have highlighted. I don't remember any questions from these, but I did have that highlighted. The Employment and Training of Veterans Act. The act applies to government contracts and subcontractors with contracts worth $100,000 or more. 180 days of the alleged violation. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, this one's a good one. This might be on your test. I don't remember having it, but I remember people saying they had it. The Florida Clean Indoor Air Act. Penalties. sanctions. An individual who violates the prohibitions against smoking is subject to a non-criminal fine of up to $100 for his first offense and up to $500 for each subsequent offense. Employee Polygraph Protection Act of 1988. I have those. Unemployment benefits. Make sure to read through this and highlight what I have. This one is a pretty important section, the unemployment benefits. Right there. Just read through that. Okay. So, Immigration Reform and Control Act of 1986. So, if you have a question that is talking about Form I-9, the Form I-9 is the Immigration Reform and Control Act of 1986. So, if you get an I-9 question, come here, and most likely the answer is here. Employment verification. Under IRCA, an employer must verify the identity of all new employees as well as the individual eligibility to work in the United States. In this regard, the employer must also complete an employment eligibility verification form I-9. The I-9 must be completed by the employer and the employees within 3 business days from the day the employer begins work. Right here is where I had the question. Once again, you get I-9 on the test. You're coming right here to the Immigration Reform and Control Act of 1986. That's why I had this highlighted here. Where is it? What page, right? Boom, immigration right here, I-9. And if you go, let's go into the index and see if we can find I-9 in here under forms. No, it's not here. So let's look at immigration. Nope, it's not here. So the only way to get to it is if you actually know it. So let's see if it's under labor. Labor laws. No, it's not under there. So this is one of them that you have to know where it is and go exactly to where it is. Okay, so right here, what I was saying, I had this on my test, 100% guaranteed. The I-9 must be kept for all current employees throughout their employment. For terminated employees, the I-9 must be retained by the employer for 3 years after the date of hire or 1 year after the date that the individual no longer works for the employer, whichever is the later date. So I had a question that was like, this person was hired this date and they left this date. How long do you have to keep the I-9 for? And it was just 3 years, luckily. And then the penalties, these, I don't remember seeing any of these. Florida law, don't remember any of that. And through here, I just have child labor. I don't think I have a lot of things highlighted, but let's find out. Let's go through it together. Yeah, it doesn't look like I have anything. Once again, if you guys want to be added to the WhatsApp group, the number's down below. Just text it and you'll be added into the group. It's other people taking the test, so you can find a study buddy and get this thing passed. Okay. All right, I have this one, exempt and non-exempt work, 541.702. Oh. Yeah, I don't remember going through this on the test. I didn't even study any of this, to be honest. I don't think it's nothing you have to worry about. But once again, they can ask you anything from the test. But I wouldn't spend a lot of my time studying any of this stuff. Once again, it's more of like, these are the main laws, and they kind of recap it in the beginning of the chapter. So you don't have to read through all of this. But they put that in there just to make sure you have it. Yeah, I don't have anything in here. Keep going. Let's see if something pops up. I don't think so. Comment down below what you guys are having the hardest time with, and I can probably make a video and go over it. So now we're at what employers need to know about reemployment tax. I actually went to this when I was on the test. It's pretty good. Who pays for reemployment assistance? You, the employer, pay for reemployment assistance through a tax managed by the Florida Department of Revenue. So they might ask you on the test, it will say like, Michael made $5,000, and how much does Michael need to pay in reemployment assistance? And it will say like $1,000, $200, $300, or $0. And it's a trick question because the employer pay for the reemployment assistance. So the answer would be $0. So that's something that might pop up on the test. And boom, boom, boom. Employment not covered. This is cool to know. Highlight that. Right here. Oh, this is a good one that I had. It was asking me what in a specific form was, and I could not figure out what it was. And it was I think it was an RT 5 or RT 6, and it was asking like when you had to file it. And I was like, man, where is this? I couldn't find it. And I finally flipped through and I found it on one of these pages. Let me see if I can find it. You must file your employer's RT6, including any correction, and pay the tax electronically if you're an employer who employed 10 or more employees in any quarter during the preceding state fiscal year. So you have until July 1st and June 30th to pay it. The tax rate now for new employers is 2.7%. Businesses proceedings. Form RT6NF allows you to report out-of-state employment wages paid to employees who worked in another state and transferred to Florida. I think that was another question on my test on what is a form RT6NF. Okay, so this is important to go through, like right here. This is the like know these type of forms and when they have to be submitted, because once again they had it on my test. The maximum tax rate allowed by law is 5.4%. Like they could ask this, when is the RT20 mailed to employers? And then right here, mailed to each employer in December. That's a question they could ask you. Employer's Guide to, Employer's Guide to Reemployment Tax. Right here. Employer or an independent contractor employment quarterly report, RT6, excuse me. Right here. This is a really good like cheat sheet. So make sure to have these highlighted and actually read through this and know this stuff. An employing unit is the person limited liability company, partnership, corporation, or other legal entity for whom service is performed. That's an important, the employee unit. Employment not covered. Once again, highlight these, pause the video, and you can highlight them. Penalty for failure to file electronically. Correcting your report. New hiring or hires within 20 days of employment hire day. Tax rate. 5.4%, 2.7%. You probably already know that, have that memorized. Excess wage. So these are the glossaries. Once again, another cheat sheet. If you don't know a word that they're talking about, you can just come here and go to the glossary and find it. It's a short glossary, but it is here. Employer Guide to Reemployment Assistance Benefits. I have this. Monetary qualifications, and I have these highlighted. I have that. An appeal must be filed within 20 days from mailing date of the termination. And then the tax rate right here. Initial tax rate 2.7%, standard tax rate 5.4%, and maximum tax rate 5.4%. So there you go. We finished chapter 5. Make sure you guys like and comment down below, and I'll see you guys in chapter 6 next, workers' compensation.